I am Marwan Cameron, and this is The Conduit. It is Saturday night, 11 p.m., Kitsap County. This is Saturday's service. We're going to preach tonight. We're going to get into it. Got a lot to unpack. Settle in. A lot going on in the world. A lot of unrest. Russia, Canadian border truckers. Now it starts to spread to other countries. Still dealing with the pandemic, although it seems more endemic. There are still people dying every single day in the thousands. But you know, we got a Super Bowl in a few hours, so that's probably has most people's focus right now. But what are you doing to get ready? You know, I'll talk about this in a later show, but I think we really need to pay attention to the fact that these truckers wield quite a bit more power than I think many folks thought. We're already having issues in regards to um, getting goods from overseas, empty shelves, delays in shipping due to the pandemic, shortages of materials, even weather issues. Now you have truckers that are protesting and clogging up highway lanes and not delivering goods. You know, the show that I do with Mark on Wednesdays through Roseco, Resilient Ecosystem, shout out to them. You know, we talk about natural disasters, right? Cascadia rising, pandemic. Those are the things that we focus on. Don't really consider the man-made issues that can arise, right? The civil unrest, the protest. And what's interesting is, you know, just how fragile our just-in-time delivery is. Now, the silver lining in this, or at least the lesson, there's several lessons in here. One is we should take note of the efficacy of what they were able to do. You know, when George Floyd was murdered and the protests happened nationwide and worldwide in different areas, you know, it was pretty significant for sure. And still we're having these scenarios happen, but we're done really protesting, right? No knock warrant. And what's that, Minneapolis last week? And I think there's protests there, but nothing like George Floyd. But the truckers have definitely taken control. So if you can't get food, if you can't get your goods, what are you going to do? Are you ready? Don't know how your stocks are doing, but mine definitely took a hit over this last week. So keeping a close eye on that. A lot going on. But tonight, I wanted to get into faith. Faith, probability versus possibility. I talk to a lot of folks, and whether it's friends, family, clients, students, even strangers, and they ask for advice. I find myself providing counsel to people a few hours every day, pretty much. And many times, the conversation is more around uh, possibility and not probability. It's possible. It could happen. I could dunk a basketball. It's possible. It's not probable, but it is possible. Hmm. So I ask, um, they may say, well, are you being a dream killer? And what I try to do is put it into context, right? If you have an emergency surgery, do you want probability or do you want possibility of a good outcome? I say that I want a high probability of an outcome and not a possibility of an outcome. And so when people have a mindset, and there are several different mindsets, one of the mindsets that I see often is kind of a poverty mindset, is that it is possible for something to happen and therefore that's what you're going to hang your hat on. It's not probable. And you really don't want to hear the statistics or the likelihood of what you wish to happen happening. And some of these folks have tremendous faith, tremendous faith. I was having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday that was telling me that he had the faith to move mountains. And I said to him, you know, you hear that, right? Your faith says in the Bible, your faith can move mountains. And I said to him, there have been so many people with such great faith, but yet I have not seen any mountains move. You know, I haven't seen any mountains move. So I have to say, stop the cap. You know what I mean? I haven't seen it. I grew up in the church and being young, not understanding, visiting many churches, listening to deacons, preachers, those with their relationships with God, because I can't define what that is. I can't quantify what their relationship is, right? I just have to take their word that their relationship is strong. Okay. In 2021, I was very critical of the black church. And in 22, I'll probably do more of the same, but more so What I want to do is be more goal oriented, results focused, outcome focused. How do you get what it is that you want or need? Prosperity preaching that happens in many churches here in about 12 hours, where people have sat decades in the pews every Sunday, and the situation changes not significantly. And they say, they're going to be faithful, right? They're going to be faithful. That there's going to be financial prosperity. They're going to find a husband. They're going to get healthy. Whatever it is they're praying for, right? And they show up every Sunday. 5 years later, they're in the same place, pretty much. 10 years later, pretty much in the same place. 15 years later, and very few actually improve their situation and scenario. So why is that? I was having a conversation with this same gentleman yesterday, and we were talking about how the Bible and Christianity, right? There's so many faiths of Christianity that use the same Bible, and yet they can read a verse and interpret it a totally different way. James 2:14 through 26 out of the King James Version. What doth it profit, my brethren, though a man say he hath faith and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto him, depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding ye give them not those things that are needful to the body, what doth it profit? Even so, faith, if it hath not works, is dead, being alone. Statement of fact, right? Faith without work is dead. So many are faithful, but yet they are not working. Wishful thinking, hope and a prayer, possibility. And when it doesn't happen, well, I guess it just wasn't for me. So then they excuse it away. Faith without work is dead. Yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Shew me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Okay. Thou believest that there is one God, thou dost well. The devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man and woman, that faith without works is dead? Your own vanity makes you believe that somehow your hope and your prayer, your possibility is going to get you what you need and want. Verse 20 there for you. And I see it over and over, and I hear it. I hear the same things. Different person. Hope, prayer, wishful thinking, possibility over probability. You don't know, it could happen. Why are you trying to be a bubble buster? And it's not that. My issue is, what are you doing? What is your action? What are your works toward that faith? And I think people have a false sense of what faith is. They believe that faith is, I showed up on Sunday. I came to work. One of the big issues that I have with the church is what I'm doing right now, right? Because ultimately I want to have a conversation. I don't want to talk at someone. I want to talk with them, right? But you hear the word, right? The Bible hasn't changed in, well, I mean, several generations. So let's say the last 3 or 4 generations, your kids, your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and maybe even your great grandparents have all been worshiping in the same book. So it hasn't really changed, right? There's 365 days in a year. You've got 52 weeks in a year. You've got 52 Sundays. So you're going to go through the same book over and over and over again. One of the dangers that I see in that is, one, that there's only the one book that guides someone's life. It's like they can't use any other resources to help them in their lives. You would think, growing up in the church and hearing it over and over again, 52 books or 52 weeks in a year. If you're 50 years old, you've got 2,500 Sundays. There's 66 books in the Bible. How many times have these lessons been reinforced? How many Bible verses do you have memorized? When the preacher begins to read the scripture, do you read it? Do you not read it along with him? Almost like your favorite song. The application is what's missing. The homework. And I'll speak for myself for sure. But I know that there are so many others that fall into this also. We see it. I've shown you some images of some disgusting things and behaviors that have happened in Black churches. But you come on Sunday, you pray, you sing out loud, you ask for forgiveness. You go on about your week. Maybe you're even part of the choir, so you come into the choir rehearsal. Maybe you do other things at the church, and so you're in there more than just Sunday, but then you come back. And it's the same thing. See, the Trinity is mind, body, and spirit. Maybe your spirit is strong, but nothing else really is. Faith without work is dead. Back to where we were. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered Isaac his son upon the altar? Seest thou how faith wrought with his works? And by works was faith made perfect. Hmm. And the scripture was fulfilled, which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called a friend of God. So that's an example of the works of faith that Abraham showed. And his faith paid off because there was work behind the faith. Ye see then how that by works a man is justified and not by faith only. To me, this is important because so many of us are going by faith and it's incomplete. Did you buy your lottery tickets? Are you hoping for a raise? A pay increase? Are you hoping that your rent doesn't go up? Are you hoping that your car doesn't break down? Hope, faith, prayer, you're being prayerful. Where's the work? Did you get the car the oil change? Did you annotate what you were doing above and beyond your actual duties to ask for a raise? Did you even ask for a raise? Do you deserve it?
Nope.
Probably not. Likewise, also, was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and had sent them the other way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead. You know, we are in some trying times, and in every generation, we're getting closer, right? I remember my parents' generation saying, oh, well, these are the end times. And their parents saying, oh, it's the end times. Maybe it is, and maybe it isn't. And in the history of time, maybe it is, but we're only here for a second anyway. But it doesn't make life any easier for us. Some people are living a living hell. Hell on earth. So to paraphrase, he said that there are faith without works is dead. Work empowers and energizes faith. Work makes faith possible, profitable. So it's really backwards. It's the opposite. I have faith because I'm doing the work. And I believe that my work will pay off. And so I'm faithful in the effort. And I can pray for strength and guidance while I do the work. And I understand that it's no guarantee that I'm going to achieve the outcome that I want. But I increase the probability of me achieving the outcome, of me designing and being the orchestrator, the architect of my life, taking locus of control. We have some things that we have to define, our vocabulary words for this evening. Accountability. What is accountability? I'm going to paste it here because it's important. What is accountability? Now, if you want to increase your faith, then you can start doing the work now. Don't wait for the answer. Answer the question to yourself. What is accountability? What does accountability mean to you? Are you actually accountable? And what does that mean for you to be accountable? To yourself, to someone else, to your mission, to your goal. Accountability, the quality or state of being accountable. This is from Webster's. Especially an obligation or a willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. So a faith without work is dead, but you have a symbiotic relationship of work and faith. And as you work, your faith will increase because you are seeing the progress. Are you accountable? When you find yourself in that same situation day in and day out, week in and week out, year in and year out, and you wonder why it hasn't changed, are you being accountable? Bad things happen. And they say there's nothing new under the sun. So whatever tragedy that you're facing, that I have faced or that I will ever face, I won't be the first one to have faced it. And there are always examples of people who have overcome tragedies, calamities in their life. And we wonder, how did they do it? And we could point to, well, maybe they had more resources or maybe they had more support. And so they were able to navigate through it. But why can't you? Why can't you? So let's talk about belief. What is belief? How do you define belief? What do you believe in? You believe in God, right? That's why you're faithful and you're prayerful. Many of you. Again, from Webster's, belief, a state or habit of mind in which trust or confidence is placed in some person or thing. That sounds very close to what faith is, right? Interchangeable, really. Again, from Webster, strong belief or trust in someone or something. Faith in God, faith in the process, faith in you will achieve the outcome. Things will turn out the way you want them to turn out or they need to turn out. Trust in God, have faith in God. Same thing, right? But again, you have free will. So you've got to do the work. You've got to do the work. And how do you do the work? Again, we just talked about it, right? Faith without work is dead. You must do the work to increase your faith. They don't seem to really tell you that in any church that I've been in. So, what is it that you need to be faithful for? You're faithful that God's going to work it out. You're faithful that you're going to be able to pay your bills at the end of the month. You're faithful that your health is going to come back. You're faithful that you're going to find someone who loves you and treats you the way that you need to be treated. Faith isn't let go and let God take the wheel. You're going off the road, right? So what are you doing toward those things? A goal, something that you are trying to do or achieve. Those are the works. So when they tell you to be faithful, that if you have the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains, what does that really mean? You got people praying and just I believe and I'm faithful and I just praying multiple times a day and I believe with all my heart. I got this belief. But you got to do the work. You got to do the work. And for me, what is missing from many Sunday services is how to do the work. If faith without work is dead and you must do work in order to build your faith, then set goals, whatever it is that you're trying to do. Again, it's probability versus possibility. Oh, it could be possible. You know, the saying is all things are possible with God. God can do anything, but he rarely does. So what's probable? Now, he woke you up so that you could do the works to build your faith. So it's not good enough to just show up. You got to do the work. That's the work. And in order to do the work, we have to get past one of the big crutches, the biggest hurdles that we have in our community. The disease of independence. I can do bad all by myself. I can't trust no one. I don't need no man. All those things, right? I don't need no man. I can do bad by myself. Nope. Unfortunately, really what that is
emotional damage.
But they don't tell you that, right? Because the social engineering tells us, no. See, you in the community, you're kings and queens, and I'll touch on that here in a minute. And it's like, okay, so what exactly have you done to be a king or a queen? Looking at your behaviors and your actions and what comes out of your mouth, and I don't see royalty. But somehow you're giving yourself some crown. Again, we'll touch on that later. But you need interdependence. But we're told to be independent. What is interdependence? What is interdependence to you? I told you last week that I was explaining to someone who hadn't heard the term interdependence. And it can be kind of hard to explain, right? Because it sounds a lot like codependence when you're thinking about it, because it's not you alone, it's you with others. It has to work that way. But man, doesn't that seem like codependent because you need the other person? That's a little bit different than that. Interdependence, the state of being dependent upon one another, right? Oftentimes, codependency is one way. It can be both ways. But mutual dependence, a form of symbiosis, of close mutual interdependence of two species organisms. Marston Bates says the deep psychology Interdependence between ourselves and those we love. Judith Savage says, understood an interdependence of mental, physical, and spiritual health, a mutual dependent relationship, working together. So when you have a household, when you have a traditional family, and people have their roles, both may be a breadwinner, but traditionally one was a breadwinner, the other one took care of the home. But even in a uh, two households where both people are working, there's still going to be certain things that people do. Their strengths. One might cook and clean. The other one may take care of the car and the yard and other things, take care of the bills. And that symbiotic relationship, that interdependence is what makes it work. So we're here now, well, I don't cook, I don't clean. We were just joking about that on Tuesday. It's like, but you have to do it for yourself. So now you're in a relationship and you don't want to do it for the other person. And by doing that, then the other person is able to do and focus on their piece, right? Getting ahead at the organization or the company, making sure that they're on time, they're at their best, that they become indispensable at their job or they grow their business. But we don't see the interdependence of it, right? We've let them tell us, well, that's a weakness. You can't uh, submit. Right? That's a bad word. Many in the Black community have taken out obey in their wedding vows. And even when the minister says it, many times the bride will outwardly say, "Oh, I ain't doing that part." And it's a wonder why so many marriages end in divorce, more than 50%. Now, I'm going over these definitions now so that as we have this conversation, you already have something that you can go back to. And what's really critical, especially for men, you have to protect your meat. Protect your meat. You're a king, allegedly. You're aspiring. I wouldn't call myself a king or a prince. But you have to protect your meat. This is something that I don't do a very good job of. Now, what is meat? It's not what you're thinking. Get your head out the gutter. Meat is an acronym: money, energy, attention, and time. Shout out to Coach Greg Adams for that definition. So, meat is money, energy, attention, and time. Men, you must protect your meat. Whether you have children or not, you need to protect your money because obviously you need a place to live. You need to be able to build. You know that it's hard out here to be in a livable wage job. So maybe entrepreneurship is something that you need to get into. Many of us are going to work until the day we die. There's so many of us that are homeless. So you have to protect your money. You have to learn how to save. You need to learn how to invest. You have to learn how to not waste it. There was a rapper who was just complaining about how he was in VIP in Gucci, and Gucci didn't come and give him the service that he wanted. And he's whining and complaining like a little bitch. And I mean that. And last year, what were they doing? The sweaters with the blackface or the noose? And he's complaining about the service that he wasn't getting, and he's trying to spend $29,000 on an Italian brand. How foolish. How foolish that he is crying and complaining that he cannot spend his money at an organization that doesn't give two about him or us for that matter. You know, someone had said earlier, I think it was Phil Scott, he was talking about how, Gucci, if they really wanted us to wear their clothes and whatnot, you would see endorsements, right? But you don't really see endorsements with these Italian labels in the hip hop community or anything else, right? Why do I need to endorse you and pay you any money? You're just gonna buy it anyway. And it destroys the culture. I was talking to a young man about 14 a couple years ago, and he had this a $200 Gucci belt on, and was just so proud of the thing. Actually, it wasn't even 3 years ago, and we were having a conversation about what had come out in the news and what Gucci had done. And he's just like, "Well, I just like it anyway. It don't really matter." A fool and his money is soon departed. Energy, the ability to be active, the physical or mental strength that allows you to do things. The devoted, they devoted all their energy to the completion of the project. Natural enthusiasm or effort. Again, faith without work is dead. So, what do you need to actually have faith? Work. Work requires energy. So, where is your energy going? Is your energy going toward what it is that you want or what you need? You need a better job. You need more training. You need more education. You need personal and professional development. You need mental health. You need another stream of income. You need a companion. But you're not working toward it. You're praying. You believe that God will give something to you. It'll come right when I need it, right? We have all these great sayings, right? The Lord works in mysterious ways. It might not be when you want it, but it'll always be right on time. No agency at all. And you wonder why people are in church week after week, year after year, and they're in the same situation that they're in. And you watch a few move up and move out and excel, and the other ones are doing the exact same thing, waiting on the heaven to open and manna to fall from above. Like baby birds that can't feed themselves, just open up their mouth and let the food just drop in. That's not how life works. But they will tell you and they believe they are the most faithful because they are there. Every time the church door is open, they're there. But there's no work. They think that's the work by showing up. So understand, if you want something to happen, you're going to have to work for it. And again, there's no guarantee. There is just an increased probability that it will happen. Otherwise, it just remains a possibility, and a bleak one at that. The A in meat is attention, the act or power of careful thinking about listening to or watching someone or something. What are you focused on? What has your attention? I'm having a conversation with a gentleman yesterday, and a girl walks by. Oh man, she got a fat ass. That was it. Conversation was over. Matter of fact, he chased her down to go and talk to her. No longer was he in the work, and the conversation was the work at that point in time. And he let himself get distracted. Attention. What holds your attention? What do you pay your attention to? Protect your meat. And the last one is time, which is obvious. You can tell what is in a person by what they spend their time doing. What are you doing with your time? How are you spending your time? If you're with me now, hopefully you're learning something that you can put in your toolbox, something that you can add to your work so that you can build your faith, so you can build the life that you want. But you do that through goal setting. You do that through setting priority, something that is more important than other things that need to be done, the things that someone cares about and thinks are important. And this one can be counterintuitive, right? And a lot of people will say, well, I love my kids and I just want to be with my kids all the time. And that's like my kids are just the most important thing. You see, your kids got work to do too. They got to go to school. And you got to get yourself to a position to ensure that they can have the best probable outcome that they can have. We praise our veterans who serve the country and go on deployment, and we say they're great parents, right? But they're not with their children, right? Kids are sad. Mom, dad gone for 8 months, a year, 3 months at a time in a sub. That really a good parent? Is that a good parent? See, most people would say yes because they're doing the work, right? That's what is required to provide what their child needs so that they can grow into successful adults and have the best chance at a good life, at least a great start. So the priority isn't to be up under them and not miss every little thing that happens in their life. The priority is that you go to work, you improve yourself, you create relationships, you compromise, you do what you got to do so that they can have the best chance, the highest probability of success. But that seems kind of counterintuitive. Possibility, the condition or fact of being possible. Again, like I said, I don't like possibility. I was having a conversation. Uh, some of my students would say, C's get degrees, Mr. C. And I'm like, I would never want you to be my heart surgeon. If C's get degrees, that means that you phoned it in. You really didn't do your homework. You didn't read the chapter. Maybe you have some natural ability to guess well or kind of comprehend things quickly. But when it really comes down to true understanding and application, you don't have that. I don't want the person that designed and built the Tacoma Narrows Bridge to have the attitude that C's get degrees. Because when the weather is bad, I want to make sure that that bridge stands. So I don't want the possibility that it's going to be okay. I want a probability, a high probability that it's going to be okay. What is probability? Something such as an event or circumstance that is probable. The ratio of the number of outcomes in an exhaustive set of equally likely outcomes that produce a given event to the total number of possible outcomes. The chance that a given event will occur. Like I said, it's possible I can dunk a basketball. It's just not probable. But so many people that I have conversations with, people, really smart folks, it's possible. It could happen. You don't know. No, I don't. It is possible. But it's not likely. It's not probable. And we're living our lives off of possible. And we're wrapping it in faith and saying, hey, well, you know what? I got the faith I have more than a mustard seed of faith. And the Bible says, well, faith of a mustard seed can move mountains, so I should be able to move the whole earth. And I haven't seen a mountain move yet. And there's some very faithful people. Faith without work is dead. Show me the work. What's the work? What are you doing? What are your goals? How are you doing towards your goal? Have you modified your goal? Have you changed the goal? Have you achieved a milestone? That's faith. You have to do the work. Time management is critical. Again, your meat, your money, energy, attention, and time. That time management piece, the act or skill of controlling and making decisions about business, departments, or a sports team, etc. Are you teaching yourself? We are in the information age right now. No idea how to do a podcast last year. Just going to start watching YouTube videos and reading. Okay. Nope, not great. Could be better. It's better than what it was. I look back at some of the old videos and just bust out laughing. It's pretty crazy. You know, one of the hardest things is having the power of discernment, understanding the difference between a need and a want. A need, a situation in which someone or something must do or have something. Something that a person must have, a strong feeling that you must have or do something. That is a need. And a lot of people can't tell the difference between a need or a want. A want is the desire or wish for something. You don't need it, you just want it. I think people that are faithful have a lot of want-itis, as my dad would call it. You want it, but you ain't working toward it. I watch so many people not work toward what they want. I want to be an influencer. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a rapper. I want to be this. I want to be that. It's like, okay, so what are you doing toward it? And even when you provide them with the opportunity, not really interested. It's a little bit more than I thought. I guess I really didn't want it, or I didn't need it. It was just a want. If it would just come to me, then that'd be cool. I think the hardest thing in the comprehension of needs versus wants are the unknown needs. A need under the three definitions of need that a person is either unaware of or in denial of. You need to read. You need mental health counseling. You need personal and professional development. You need to save money. You need a companion. Now, you might want an Adonis or an IG model, but you don't need that. You need someone who's going to guide and steer you in the right direction. You need someone who's going to be nurturing and supportive and agreeable and not combative. That's what you need. But society is telling you that you don't need that, that you're okay. Social engineering has made it where, well, you know what? You can just get TANF and food stamps and medical and all these other things, and you don't need anyone. Just do it by yourself. I think there's a stat that says 3 out of 4 women in their middle age are on antidepressant medication or mood altering medicine, and maybe self medicating with wine or alcohol, and now marijuana. That's a lot. And the conversations that I have with women of all ages that are miserable because they don't know how to be in relationship with the man because society told them, well, you can't, you got to be the queen, right? He's not the king, but you got to be the queen. So he's a servant, a court jester, or whatever. But you don't really even need that, right? You could do bad all by yourself. Tyler Perry. Why did I get married? So we can blame it on the dominant society for pushing out negative tropes. But even our own folks push it out for us. And that's what we value. That's what we suck up. That's what we put our money into. That's what we put our attention into. And then we ask ourselves, does life imitate art or does art imitate life? We're definitely influenced by what it is that we see. We know that social engineering is real, that marketing and advertising is real, which is why they do it, why they spend billions of dollars on it. Faith without work is dead. What is your work? And again, I ask you, are you accountable? Because if you haven't achieved what you wanted in your life and it's not going the way that you want it to go, is it really because you're not faithful and you're not praying? Your connection to God broken? Or are you just praying and hoping and thinking that it's possible, but you're not doing anything actually toward it? We're in a microwave society. We want it easy. We want it right now. with little effort and little time put in. I tell you, you can have this much in 5 years. You're like, it wasn't that much anyway. I'll just deal with where I'm at now. I'm cool. I'm 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 blessed. I'm blessed and highly favored. I ain't got no complaints. Not really. I mean, usually it's just pretty good. But you're left wanting. You're lacking. You can't do what you want to do. The car breaks down, you can't fix it. Can't do what you want to do for the kids. You can't do what you want to do for yourself. You can't emancipate yourself from that job that you hate going to where they treat you like dirt, where the customers treat you like dirt. You're stuck. And maybe you go to church and you pray and you're faithful that it's going to change and God's going to deliver you from that. But you haven't tried to personally or professionally improve yourself so that you can change the situation. And somehow you wonder, how am I still here? But, again, God works in mysterious ways. He'll make a way out of no way. But in all the stories of the Bible, people were working. They did work. The people that followed Jesus around, they followed him. They're walking. We defined faith. We compared faith and belief. It's basically the same thing. What I ask for you to do is analyze your own faith based on all the definitions of and vocabulary that we went over. Analyze your own faith. What is it that you are believing in, that you are being faithful for, that you're going to be delivered from, or that you're going to achieve, or how your life is going to change? And analyze the work that you're doing toward that, because that's your measure of true faith. Are you doing it? I want you to know how to begin working faithfully. And we talked about it. Set goals, manage your time. You can use the Pomodoro technique. It's literally saying, you know what? I'm going to set this timer, and for 25 minutes, this is what I'm going to do. And you focus on that thing for 25 minutes. And after that timer goes off, you take a break, and you can set another timer and do another 25 minutes on some directed action. That is your work toward faith. That is going to turn your possibility into more of a probability. And the more that you're willing to work toward it, the more your faith will be rewarded. And it's probably not going to be instantaneous. Understand. What do you do when your faith is low? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. One, let me go ahead and put this all in the chat here. The objectives of this conversation. Is check in on your goals. People tell me all the time, all right, you hear women, they'll say, I'm working on myself, right? What does that mean? That you're working on yourself? What are you actually doing? And how do you know that you're actually making progress in what it is that you're supposed to be working on yourself about? What are you doing? Got to tell them.
Stop the cap.
You're working on yourself, huh? So, are you seeing a mental health counselor? Are you reading a book, self help book? Are you learning something new? How's that New Year's resolution going? Have you worked on communication skills, conflict negotiation? Do you know how to be a good partner to someone? Do you understand how to be accountable? Can you recognize when you're not being honest with yourself? Are you being petty? Are you quick to anger? So, what to do when your faith is low? Look at your goals, analyze your effort. And if your effort is lacking, then recalibrate. Think about why it's not working. Do you have someone with you that can help you be accountable? That's why a lot of people will have workout buddies, right? Because there are those days when it's like, man, I just cannot drag myself out of bed. I am not going to the gym today. And the workout buddy says, come on, man, let's go. Let's go. We going. And I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And you go. And after you're done, those endorphins release because you worked out and you feel so good after. Like, man, I did it today. On a day I really didn't want to do it, I got it in. And that can propel you. That can propel your faith because that's the work. My thing now is to say, doing the right thing is boring because you're doing the same thing every day. You're creating those patterns, those good habits. And the thing is as you build good habits, you're going to decrease those bad habits because there's less of a place for them. Harder to focus on things that take your money, energy, attention, and time. The things that take your meat. When you're doing the boring thing, when you're doing the same thing day in and day out, when you're making progress and you're analyzing it. How to do your works that will increase your faith, interdependence. You don't do it by yourself. You think that you do. You know, I'll give you an example of me being faithful. I started G2, gather together, grow together in 2018. Our birthday was on Tuesday, and we turned 4. And I don't know what the percentage is. Like some like 60% of businesses fail in the first year, and such percentage fail this year and that year and the year after, right? They say if you can make it past 5 years, you're good. Typically, you get in a couple years, and what happens? A pandemic. What the hell is a pandemic? you know, what's a pandemic? COVID. We're just getting started. The whole world closed down. What are we going to do? Lord, please help G2 to stay open and be able to take care of folks and do everything we got to do. Lord, I have faith that somehow you're going to make a way. That's not enough. That's the start. I got to do the work. What's the work? We started making hand sanitizer and making masks, and that's what we sold. See, we're so far past that now, all that uncertainty of what was what. We sold hundreds of masks, dozens of bottles of hand sanitizer. I even took a job for almost a year with the United States Navy. But that's the work, and the work ain't easy. You don't want to go to work during a pandemic. We don't make hand sanitizer and masks. That's not what we do. But that was what was needed because the belief, the faith that the company was going to continue because it's important, because it's needed, wasn't going to stay open by prayer and faith, only by work. And that's what increased the faith. And I can pray for strength, pray for opportunity, pray for obstacles to be removed. But for an obstacle to be removed, that means that I have to be in motion. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. And what happens? It's not luck. There's a saying about luck, something about opportunity and preparedness is luck, right? It's being ready when the opportunity comes along, something along those lines. During that time, I never got a stimulus check because I made too much money. Our organization never got a PPP loan. And this year in 2022, we have a $300,000 budget. That's faith, but it's the work. It's the 7 days a week. It's the ones that are going to ride with you. The folks that aren't waiting for Wakanda to be built before they jump on board. The ones that want top dollar to do anything. They can't move. They don't understand what volunteer. They don't understand the concept of something bigger than themselves. And the people that believed, the people that have faith, the faith of work, the work of faith, they thrived during the pandemic. PlayStation 5s, going out of town, never went hungry. They thrived. They weren't sustaining, they weren't surviving. They were resilient. They were thriving in an environment of chaos, misery, woe. They were faithful. And their faith was rewarded because of the work. It's really as simple as that. You must stay in motion. You must protect your meat. COVID could have closed G2. And it would have been tragic and sad. But the work and the faith that if the work was put in, that we would make it through was a prayer that was answered. please analyze your life and your situations and your scenarios accordingly because you have so much power. Power is taken, it is not given. You have it if you use it. You just need to use it. Like I said before, I'm with this gentleman yesterday, older than me, by the way. Like I said, we're walking around and he sees a fat booty in the middle of conversation. It was an important conversation about growth and purpose, both deeply in the conversation. And he was so distracted and dismantled by that he not only stopped the conversation, he actually left my side and went and chased that person down to talk to him. And immediately his energy, his attention, and his time were all gone on the possibility of what? He's going to get a phone number at best. I think unfortunately people live worse than they have to. You don't work for what you need or want. It's too hard. It's going to take too long. I shouldn't have to do this. It's not my fault I'm in this situation. Or even if it was, okay, I made a mistake, but I shouldn't have to be working this hard to get out of it. The victim Olympics. Oh, it's the culture. It's the dominant society. It's racism. It's white supremacy. It's my health. It's this. It's that. I got kids. Whatever you want to say. They hate me. He left me. She left me. All those things can be true. But what are you going to do about it? You're not the only one that has experienced those things. So are you faithful or not? Are you willing to do the work or not? It's so sad because the conversations that I have with people and they talk about their desires, right? And some of their desires, some of their wants are actually needs. They need to do these things for themselves, for their kids. They need to strengthen themselves. They can see the 20-year in the future version of themselves walking around in homeless shelters, working at a dead end job, alone, depressed, anxious. And for some reason, they look at the fact that, man, I want this, but I don't want to put the work in. I showed up, right? I mean, I came, I prayed, I'm faithful that it's going to work out some way, right? Because that's what they tell me when I go to church. Just believe, have faith, pray, just show up, just come, just come. Something gonna happen. When I was younger, I would go to the Pentecostal church with my best friend, right? Church in God in Christ, Kojic. And I'm sitting there. Now, where I was going to Mount Zion in Seattle. So this is the biggest Baptist church in the state of Washington, right? Everyone's all put together, middle class black folks, middle and upper class black folks. Organs, pianos, inspirational choir, teen choir. I mean, there's like 5 choirs, full, like 30 people in each choir, right? You got churches now, 2 people in the choir. Huge, not a mega church, not a mega church. Maybe a mega church for the 70s or something like that. I don't know. Not a mega church. Then I go to the Church of God in Christ, and people are speaking in tongues and running up and down the aisle. The wig is falling off. They going all in the seat and going crazy. I'm gonna see the hallelujah. It's crazy, right? I'm scared to death. I'm like, what is going on? I'm 10 years old. I'm 11 years old. I'm 12. I'm like, do I look at them? I just need to sit still. I don't want that. I don't even know what's happening. I'm surprised sometimes that the preacher or people in the choir just didn't bust out laughing at me because they see the look on your face, right? You ain't from around here, are you, boy? Nope, not at all. Not at all. That's really giving me some, you know.
Nope. Emotional damage.
I'm stuck. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. They dancing, the music done stopped and they're just still going. Woo! Woo! The preacher, they doing something else, and this person's still going up and down the aisle. And it's just like, what is happening in here? I'm tripping out. I would go to the same church camp. Man, was I a devil at that church camp, boy. I was so bad, right? So I'm in my young early teens. 13, 14, 15 in there, 16. So I thought I was some playboy. So, you get some new clothes for church camp. It's a week long in the San Juan Islands, right? So I go and my name wasn't Marwan, my name was Ice. So the staff, the church staff from Church of God in Christ would call me Brother Ice because that's what I wanted to be known as, right? And they respected that. It was so crazy. It's like, no, you're not Ice, little boy. Your name is Marwan. But they called me Brother Ice because that's what I wanted to be called. I was too cool for school. I was selling candy at the church camp. I just knew I was going to hell. you know? And I would give a shirt that I got, and I would give it to one of the women at the church, right? Because they're like, when I say women, they're like, somewhere between like 18 and 24, somewhere like that, you know? So I'm hitting on these older women. "Hey, you could take my shirt." "Oh, I see. So that was bad. But they would get the Holy Ghost because they would still have super, church with the kids. And some of the kids was doing their thing. I was like, man, and something wrong with me? Because I'm not getting that. I really felt like there was something wrong with me. It was crazy. It was a crazy time. I had so much fun at church camp. I was such a heathen. Oh boy. Oh man. Those are good times. I wish I could remember all the memories. It's so good to talk with Rod and Fred and even my brother Jared and Tom when he was alive and tell those stories of church camp. I couldn't understand it. How they were getting these feelings and what was happening. I cried real hard one day. Somehow it opened up there, but it was never anything that was really consistent. And why was because that's not where my mind was. That's not where my heart was. It's not what I wanted. And so I wasn't working toward what I wanted or needed at that time. Had I been, I might have saved myself a lot of misery in my young adult life. But I wasn't there. I wasn't there. Men, you must protect your meat, protect your money, your energy, your attention, and time. I'm going to talk about this a lot. We're living in a time now where we can't afford not to be together. You've got to find a way to work with somebody. And the Disney fairy tale that you think that it should be just ain't true. Kevin Samuel says, you better make a deal with somebody. Being with someone it's a business deal. How can we create something to where we can be resilient together? We can have respect and like now, we can have love later. But we got to get through because y'all ain't going to make it by yourself. You're not. You're not making it now. So many of you haven't been able to pay your rent on time. And you think somehow you're coming out of it because the pandemic is becoming endemic. We're still not at the end of that. We're on the brink of war. And as I started the conversation, we got the truckers that are holding up supplies. Oh, and we have climate change. And. You're not going to make it. And the thing is you want, but you're not recognizing your needs. See, so many of us, like I was talking about in my teens, oh, I YOLO'd. You only live once. At that time has passed. So that person isn't going to be the Adonis that you want them to be. That person isn't going to be the IG model that you want her to be. You better recognize a good situation when it comes to you and figure out how you are going to communicate and navigate through conflict. Be cooperative, work together, create interdependence, because that's the only way. It's the only way that you're going to have a chance to make it through where you are not suffering in the worst of ways. We're watching the homeless population get younger. We're watching drug addiction increase, suicide, mental health issues, all of it. And still, society, the culture is telling us, now we need to just be alone. We don't need anyone else. We're independent. We're strong and independent. As I said, I spend several hours a day advising folks, friends, family, clients, say even strangers. And folks don't know how to cooperate. They can't take direction. They can't submit. It's a bad word. And so they struggle or they depend on the government. And somehow they think they're being independent and they're doing it by themselves, and the direct opposite. Because when the government decides to cut it off and tell you it's time for you to move, we're taking away your TANF, we're taking away your food stamps, we're cutting them back. Then what? The moratorium on eviction is over. Student loans are going to come due again. And you try to trick yourself and you say, well, you know what, that I don't need that anyway. I'll just deal with what I got. And you're miserable. And what you really don't do, because you refuse to do it because you keep your head in the sand, you're just looking at right now. You don't save, you spend all your money as soon as it comes in. You try to make yourself feel good in the moment, but you can't deal with the emergency a week away. When the food stamps run out, when the car breaks down, when the kids get sick, when you need new clothes, when you got to get to work, when you need something for the house. You can't even look up, because if you look up, you realize how bad it is. So you keep your head down. And while you see, you understand fundamentally that you've got to do something different. You have no faith because you don't want to do the work. And the work is the boring thing. The work is the submission. The conversation I had yesterday was about 3 hours long, maybe a little longer than that. I'd woke up at 4 in the morning and had a lot on my mind. And I knew who I was going to be around. And, my faith, my prayer is that the words that I give to someone when I'm giving advice or counsel is that the words are helpful and it's what they need, right? But again, faith without work is dead. So in order for me to be faithful, then I need to try to be impeccable with my word, right? My work has to be solid, which means that I have to understand and learn. I need to look at the scenario objectively, understand the person, and then not to sugarcoat it. Because you don't do any favors by sugarcoating the situation for people. It's going to hurt their feelings. It's going to be hard to swallow for men and for women. They both cry a lot with me. But they know that it's honest and they know that it's real. And it's not to tear them down, it's to build them up. And that most people will not tell them the truth, tell them what they need to hear. And instead of walking that road filled with thorns and a steep incline, it's easier just to sit where you're at and just say, you know what? I really don't need to go down that road. I'll just sit here. And it doesn't get worse typically immediately. It's just a little bit at a time. You just lose more and more ground. And in your own delusion, you come up with every other way to not have to walk down that road. Well, maybe if I'll roll a little bit. I'll walk back the other way for a couple miles and see if there's some other path. I thought I saw something like 5 miles back. So let me turn around and go this way down the hill. I'll get some momentum, hit that other way, and I bet the other way is going to be a little bit easier. Maybe I don't really need to go all the way down the road. Maybe I'll just go a couple steps and that'll be good. So I gave it really hard yesterday for 3 hours. And this started early in the morning. They weren't ready for that, but they took it. And they acknowledge that they know that's what they need to do. They don't want to do it. It's the hard thing to do, but it's the right thing to do. Now the question is will their faith allow them to do the work that is necessary for them to achieve the life that they want to achieve and get themselves out of the situation that they put themselves in? They know it's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be the way that they want it. It's going to come with ridicule and scorn. It's going to be a shot to the ego and pride. But they know that that is the way forward. So it'll be interesting to see if he does the work and is faithful. You know, for women, there was a woman who has been in a myriad of really bad, toxic relationships. And you know, it takes two people, right? In these relationships. And she meets this person, and you know, this person that she's known for a while always treated her well, treated her kids well. And when she looked at it from the outside, he would be the ideal person to be with for her and the kids, right? She'd have guidance, she'd have support, she'd have stability. The kids would have the same, she'd be safe. All these things that she needed, but she didn't want. And he just didn't excite her. He didn't excite her. And what was so strange, not really strange because it happens, right? It is what it is, right? You want what you want, right? They see the heart wants what the heart wants. Well, this ain't a Disney movie. Sorry. She had the people closest in her life telling her, you need to make that choice. She's like, Counselor, you need to make that choice. A counselor? Counselor saying that's a good choice for you. So now the people that know you the best, the people that actually truly care for you, that aren't, you know, they don't have an agenda. They're not trying to get you to do what they want you to do. They're trying to get you to do what is best for you. Yeah, it doesn't excite me. You had your years of excitement. Now you got your kids. Now you got yourself. Now you're getting older. Now you got health issues. So if this man is willing to and already treats you well and treats the kids well and is stable and can provide in ways that you haven't been provided for, you better get over the it doesn't excite me. See, that's the problem. We got this all or nothing mentality, right? I want it to be perfect. I want the Adonis. I want the IG model. If it ain't just perfect, then it ain't gonna work. It took a long time for her to come around. And she actually did. And it took multiple people at the same time telling her the same thing to get her to do the work and act on faith. Now, is this the thing that gets her loins going? Nah, probably will never be. But is she safe? Are the kids safe? Are they cared for? Is she in a space where she can grow and develop? Yes, it's what she needed. And for her, it was an an unknown need, either from denial or just really not getting it. Because a lot of times when you have been treated so badly, and that's all you know, when you see something else, you don't know how to react to it. It makes you feel uncomfortable. I'm not worthy of it. I haven't really learned how to love myself, and to have someone else show me love is awkward and painful and scary and anxiety ridden. And I can't lean into it because I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to mess it up. I don't deserve it. And they'll come up with every excuse and reason or not. And they will live their life from crisis to crisis to crisis. And we all know those people. There was a time in my life where I lived that way. And you wonder, it's like, damn, do you, if it wasn't for bad luck, you'd have no luck, right? You heard that saying before? It's like, man, there is always something happening with you. Always. Oh man, this happened. I couldn't do this. Um, this is the scenario. What had happened was, it's constant. You're like, how does this keep happening to you? You have no peace, no serenity, no tranquility, no space to grow. And in a time like now, men, you need it more than ever. There's not support out here for you. So you got to protect your meat. Women, the support that you think you have is temporary. It's a facade. And while it's designed to let you survive now, when you hit middle age, the suffering will be real. And you can look around and you can see it. And sure, it's possible it'll all work out. But the statistics of probability don't bear that out. Again, we'll come back in a week and touch back in on this. My sources are the King James Version Bible, Coach Greg Adams, myself, and the Webster's Dictionary, my experiences. Your homework, create a SMART goal. Use the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes, set a timer. Read a book, no other things that you're going to do. Build your vocabulary. Teach yourself a skill. Learn how to make a new dish. Research how to get ready to do something new. Maybe you need to read about time management. Start managing your time. Ask someone who will give you the truth. So number 1, smart goal. 2, use the Pomodoro technique. 3, ask someone who will give you the truth. 4, be impeccable with your word to yourself, to those helping you, and to the process. And to the process. Okay? Check in midweek. The biggest mistake people do is they set goals and they don't check to see how they're progressing in their goals. And 4, report your findings next week. That is your work. That is how you will start to increase your faith. And that's what faith is. That's what faith is. Probability over possibility 2022. If you want the notes from this conversation, send me an email. I'll give them to you. Just to show you, this is my outline that I am speaking from this evening. So I'm not just sitting here just talking just for the sake of talking. I do want to help you, empower you to take control of your life, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And if you're having a problem spiritually, this can definitely be the way to help you to re-engage your faith. But it takes work. So this is my lesson that I created today to have this conversation with you. Again, if you want the notes, just send me an email. I'll send them to you. My goal is hopefully to do this maybe once or twice a month. We'll see what happens. So many ideas, so little time. All right, y'all. I am R1 Cameron. This is The Conduit. We will see